Beautiful harmony. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but sometimes the most simple, basic music can be the most pleasing to play or listen to, and this is definitely the case. This is my favorite chord progression to play over. This is one I can play over forever. Just put the loop on and all of a sudden an hour has gone by and I didn't even realize it. So hopefully you take some pleasure in listening to this chord progression and experimenting with it. Depending on how you think about these two chords can really dictate the sound that you emphasize and the different sorts of emotions that you can withdraw from the instrument. If nothing else, this is really like therapy. This is a very soothing sound that we're going to get into. And I will also mention we're going to be talking a lot of music theory in this lesson. So if you're not familiar with music theory or you want to brush up on your skills, check out Guitar Super System. There is a link right down below. We have a big spring update coming next week. So if you're subscribed, be on the lookout for that. And if you want to get in on Guitar Super System, there's a lot coming and a lot to explore, from tips, tricks, techniques, exotic scales, music theory from beginner all the way to advanced, and everything in between when it comes to the guitar. Now, let's get to this chord progression. I'm going to play it first, just the two chords, and then I'm going to put on a little loop and play a little bit, let you get a feel for what we're going to get into, and then break everything down. First chord of our progression is a B major add 11. The second chord is an A major add 9. Occasionally we'll throw in the fifth of that chord, an E. Now let's put that into a musical context. That might have gone a little long, but like I mentioned, this chord progression just pulls you in like a vortex. As you can see, I just put on one simple loop and then played the chords. You don't have to really get too fancy with this chord progression. Let's examine the harmony first. You can look at it a lot of different ways. Considering the chords are a B major chord and an A major chord, that would lend itself to be either B mixolydian or A Lydian, depending on which intervals you're emphasizing. So that's going to bring us to our home base of E major. That's the key signature, but of course we are thinking in terms of, I would say, B mixolydian, with elements of Lydian due to those kind of rubbing intervals. And when I say rubbing intervals, I mean these half steps. So we have, do you hear how these two notes here, by themselves, I mean, if you put some distortion on that, like a metal sound, you can hear how those intervals may lend themselves to a completely different genre and mood. So let's talk about the next chord, an A major add 9. Root, major third, here's the fifth, that open E, and then the B, is that ninth. And of course with the root up here, you can feel that kind of majestic quality. And this is why I like extensions, namely ninths and elevenths on major chords. They just add something that really allows for your improvisation to take on a more musical quality. All these different emphasis points. And what I mean by that is if we were just playing B major to A major, the melody notes would still be accessible, those kind of dreamy sounds that I was getting into in the beginning, but let's just compare them side by side. Now same thing, but with the extensions. You can immediately hear the dimension of the latter chord progression. So that is the case for extensions. They're not always necessary. Sometimes simple chords are great, but in this case, these are pretty simple chords. We're still playing literally 3 notes or 4 notes at the most per chord, but we are using different colors of a palette, and I think more vibrant colors. So now that we get what's going on in the harmony, let's talk about the melody notes, because this is where you can get really creative, and this is where obviously music theory is going to be helpful, because you can not really be searching for notes. You can actually target specific intervals that emote a certain sound, and I'm going to get into a few that I personally enjoy using, and you can be the judge of what you like the best. So I'm going to pop on the progression again, and I'm going to emphasize certain intervals against these different chords and show you different little licks and techniques that you can use to kind of bring out the color of these chords in different ways. I played the same intervals against both chords so you could hear just totally bare bones, no melodic rhythm or anything, so you could hear just what they do to each chord. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to put those notes into context, show you how it manipulates the harmony. Getting a little bit more out there, but still using those intervals as a foundation. I've taught lessons before where it's kind of cool to avoid the root, but in the case of this, where you're really dancing around the root a lot of the time in the chords themselves, the harmony itself, it's sometimes a little bit better for the listener to feel grounded by throwing in the roots. Technically, the chord itself has the root note in it, but this is really the emphasis, that 11th. So when you have this B, it really emphasizes the 11th, really, because the harmony is just as much part of the melody in this case, and that's why I love this chord progression so much. And moving forward with that idea, we can get a little bit more creative. Basically, I am thinking about this in the context of that B mixolydian sound, but you can actually throw in a lot of different major pentatonic and bluesy stuff as well to create a little bit of an outside sound if you're getting tired of that like super dreamy modal guitar playing and you want to mix in some good old-fashioned rock and roll, for example. You can definitely do that. So what happened there was I was moving between the mixolydian kind of blues sound of the mixolydian mode, which obviously is available to us in this 7th fret position. And also throwing in the C sharp minor blues scale, because technically that's acting as the major pentatonic scale in the key of E major, which again, remember, this is our parent major scale. So although we're in the key of B major, the key signature is E major. So that gives us access to this. Obviously, with those two pentatonic driven shapes, we have access to the pentatonic scale all over the guitar neck. So you heard me come down to this position here on the 2nd fret. That is part of the major pentatonic scale. And also it's important to note that if I wanted to do something a little bit more outside the box, we have that home bass. With that, it kind of comes full circle. A lot of exploration, but what I always come back to with anything related to music theory is how you can use it to establish and identify your musical voice. And I think only by examining these intervals and how they interact with what chords you're playing over can you really do that. And obviously I'm not thinking about what intervals I'm playing as I'm playing it, but to be able to explain it and think, oh, that's why I like that sound, and then kind of target it in your practice, and then when the performance happens, you don't think about it at all. That's people like Tomo Fujita and Victor Wooten and a lot of great guitar players and bass players, musicians have told me the same thing. I don't think about anything when I'm playing, but I think about everything when I'm practicing. That kind of mentality is really healthy and definitely worth employing in your guitar playing. Speaking of Tomo, this chord progression, maybe some of you guys recognized it, is from a song called 89. It's a song that I put out with Tomo, and I'm going to pop the solo clip in where we are playing over this exact chord progression. So if you want to download the song or stream it on Spotify or watch the music video, I'll link that stuff down below. And I hope this was an inspiring and fun lesson to take with me. Did you take this lesson? Watch it, listen to it, whatever. Thanks a lot for your support. Check out Guitar Super System if you'd like to learn and support me even further. And until next time, keep shredding.